To somebody who is into photography a lot, they see things that you wouldn't normally see. You know, like I've seen your earrings and they're green, and you see things. And that clock, you could think it's an old clock because of the 4. You notice the 4? The Roman numeral 4? No, it's 4 eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Still Roman numerals, but if somebody made an imitation, nowadays they use IV. I don't mean the kind that Nurse Martha uses, but is it Martha?
Yes.
Martha. Okay, so that's the reason. It's something that you notice. Photography is all about noticing, and we haven't started yet, but this is just something that popped into my mind. Because photography is a whole brain activity. You use both sides of your brain. Very few things like that, you know. One side is the art and the beauty and seeing, and the other side is the mathematics, like Nikon got a new camera, $6,000. That's a lot of mathematics. Just for a few minutes here, looking at a slideshow. These photographs were taken by members of, is it too loud down here, Martha?
No.
Am I speaking?
No.
All these photographs were taken by people who belong to the Ash Street Group, which is a photo club that meets here on the first and third Wednesdays of every month. And we have an exhibit out in the hallway that some of you may have seen, and if not, when you take a break or on your way out, you can take a look at it. And that exhibit changes every 3 months. And these photographs are all taken by those members. And for the most part, is it 6:30? There isn't any membership fee. It's just something that we get together. Most people find it very helpful. Some people at certain ages get to a point where they're not sure what they want to do next. And we give them an assignment, like go out and take a picture of a frog or something. Is there a frog there? But it gives them something to do. And we meet, and then many times after the meeting we compare, and we have a new assignment, and we have an exhibit in the hallway, which is known as Ash Street Alley now, it's been named. And Ash Street Alley has an exhibit of 13 by 19 prints, and though that whole exhibit changes every 3 months. So we do 4 a year. This is our 3rd exhibit. April 1st, we will be doing our 4th exhibit. So in order to, you don't want to miss this one, but look at it tonight. You're going to introduce me.
I am, yes. Well, thank you for coming, everyone. My name is Matt Bowes. I'm the reference librarian and assistant director here at the library. Before we get into tonight's program, I just want to mention a couple of other upcoming events. We have a bookmark over by the refreshments over there that has all of these events listed on them if you want to pick one up before the end of the night. But next week we actually have an author coming. His name is Earl Witcher. He lives locally, and he's going to talk about his book, Judy's Journey. That's on Thursday evening, March 6th at 6:30. And then a week after that, we have an organic, sustainable gardening talk. So that's a great topic for right now. I'm sure we all want to be thinking about our gardens and not the snow. So hopefully some of you can make it to that as well. And then finally, at the end of the month, we have a New Hampshire Humanities Council event. Should be fantastic. Michael Tugius will be here to talk about his book, Fatal Forecast. That's about a disaster at sea and survival. And it's set off of the New England coast. And he's a fantastic speaker. He speaks all over New England. He's written several award-winning books. So it should be a fantastic night here at the library. And that's on the 27th of March. Come on in, folks. We also have a little evaluation form with you tonight. If you don't mind giving us a little bit of feedback about tonight and anything else that's happening at the library, we really appreciate that. And we also have an email address spot on there. If you'd like to sign up for our bi-weekly news bulletin, you'll receive emails from us about programs like tonight and other things happening at your library. So go ahead and put your email address on there as well. Chairs. There's some hot tea and coffee over here, everyone, so if you're just coming in, feel free to get up and grab something. And we also have some cookies over there. And what I'd like to do is introduce you to Jeremiah Kennelly. He is a retired photographer, and he also is the leader of the Ash Street Photography Group, which meets here at the library on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. And I know he's going to talk a little bit more about that group, but it's such a fantastic group here at the library, and we're so fortunate that Jeremiah has organized that here. If you haven't had a chance, check out their exhibit in the hallway up here. If you go out the doors to the left, they take amazing photographs, and we're just very fortunate to have them here, and they're always welcoming new members, people that have experience, from beginners to experts. So it's just a fantastic group to be a part of, so check that out as well. And then Jeremiah, I'll turn things over to you, and just thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise here at the library.
You're welcome. This is the first time I've worn a wire. I feel, because I watch a lot of Criminal Minds, you know. And you all expecting somebody over? No? Okay, that's good. You're not disappointed. We're here to talk about the saving and preserving and exhibiting your images. There's all kinds of levels of photography that are here tonight. Some of you have $6,000 Nikons, and some of you have, like me, this is a $39 camera that I'm going to use tonight to demonstrate some of the things that we're going to talk about. You will all have questions, I'm sure. What I'd like to do is, it's going to take me about 20 minutes to get all of this out. And then we'll answer questions for the rest of the time. Might take me 30, might take me a little less. The reason being that if you ask a question now, it may be of interest to Sue, but not to Jim. So Jim is thinking about something else, like where is he going on vacation, while I'm answering that question. So we can kind of put questions aside. If you have a cell phone that rings, it's okay, just give it to me. I'll talk to them, and they can join us, because there'll be one less chair. But no, that's okay. We start with to answer all of these various questions, how we back things up, save them, how sure are we what's going to happen to all our photographs. We have to start at the beginning, which is the camera. Used to be film was in the camera, and it's pretty simple. You had negatives, you put them somewhere safe, or you took them to a safe deposit box. Film is pretty much gone. Is everybody here using digital photography? Probably. And instead of film, we have a sensor. Now, the sensor only sees or records that image for a very short time, a millisecond. And then it has to put it somewhere. Now this is like a chain of custody, seeing I'm wearing a wire. This is a chain of custody. That goes to a memory that's in your camera. Some cameras, old ones, this is a $39 camera. Now, if you looked at it, you said, well, it was $200 when it was bought. But now you can buy a camera like this at Rite Aid probably for $39. It's a 6-megapixel camera. What does that mean? Well, it means that everybody is telling you that you should have more megapixels and buy a new camera. This 6-megapixel camera can take a photograph of you now and make a 16 or 13 by 19 print. That's excellent. So you don't need anything better. The camera is one of the least important parts of the whole process. Now, when the image goes into a memory, in this camera, and this is unusual, most cameras don't do this anymore, there's a memory in the camera. It stays in the camera. But there's also inside the camera a little disk. And that's a memory disk. That holds memory. Almost all the cameras you have probably have this or something similar, but do not have a built-in memory. Why is a built-in memory? Was so if you don't have a card, you forgot the card, and you're able to transfer information from the card to the other. Either way, there's three things that can happen to your image. It either goes to the memory in the camera and stays there, as long as you let it stay there, or it goes into a card like this, or some fancier and newer cameras, it doesn't go to either. It is wirelessly transmitted to some place. And that some place is usually a computer. So what we're talking about here is how do we get the picture, the image, from the seeing the ducks and the frogs and the rainbows, and how do we get the information, which is what it is, from there into the computer. And there's many different ways. And here's where some of these things are like one-liners, that if you just remember this one thing and nothing else, it would be a good deal. You can't underline speech, I guess, but I can maybe say that was important. In order to get this image into your computer, there's several ways you do it. You're doing it, everybody does that now, right? I mean, you take pictures and then you go to your computer and you connect it up somehow. One way you connect it up is by a wire. You take this, put this in your camera, and put the other end of the computer. That's one way. It's the wrong way. Don't do that. Now, when I say, this is an example of where we're going. When I say, that's the wrong way, don't do it, that could be like a 20-minute technical explanation, and we're going to leave that out. If anybody really cares about it, they send me an email and I'll send you a link to give you the technical explanation. You're better off not doing that. So you're better off, however, taking the card that's in there, no respect to that camera, I guess, take the card that's in there and you connect it up to your computer. That's what you're all doing now, correct? No? Okay. Somehow you're getting your information from your camera into your computer. You may be connecting the camera to the computer. You are better off taking the card out of the computer and putting it into a little device called a card reader. This is a card reader. And the card reader, some of you already know that you have one, and you take your card, put it in the card reader. This particular one will take all different sizes. And you take that card reader and you plug that into your computer. Once that's plugged into the computer, depending on what software is in your computer, it'll probably pop up something and say, do you want to import these images? Do you want to bring them in? In some cases, it'll give you some choices. For example, if you're using Aperture. By the way, let me go back to one thing. It doesn't matter whether you have a Macintosh or whether you have a Windows machine. It doesn't matter if you have a Nikon or whether you have a Canon. These things are true in all those cases. And when you connect up your reader to the computer, many of the programs will open up and they'll say, do you want to import all of them or just some of them? Sometimes they're all checked. It says, it's going to import all the checked ones. And it might be a button that says uncheck all or check all. The reason for that is if you only want to import 2 or 3, then you say uncheck all and check the 3 before you want to put in, and the opposite of that is true. Once you've done that, what do you do next? Well, at the end of that process, and this is underlined, it's going to say, do you want to erase what's on your card? And that's the correct answer to the question I didn't ask. You don't erase it. Do you want to format it? No, you don't. You don't want the computer to do anything to that card. You want to kick the card out. Now what are you going to do with the card? Anybody know?
Put it back in the camera.
No. That's the last place you want to put it. The reason you don't want to put it back in your camera, well, you need a second card. Now, at one time, you say, well, I'm not going to buy 2 cards, they're $30 a piece. Right now, they're about $3 a piece. So you can have 7 cards if you want, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or any kind of system that you want to use. Well, why would we take the card out of the computer? We already have the pictures in the computer. They're somewhat safe. They're now on the card also. So eventually, I'm going to put it back in the camera and erase them with the camera because the camera is doing it properly. The computer doesn't necessarily do it properly. But as long as I have them on this little disc, I can go put it in the trunk of my car. I can put it in my pocket. And I'll get another disc, put it in my camera, and take some more photographs. Now, if something goes wrong with these pictures that went into the computer, I haven't lost them because I have this little disc that I've saved. So as a rule, you get your pictures into the computer, take the card and put it aside. Maybe mark it, identify it somehow. Now, you're still not safe because you have pictures in the computer. And you think that's safe, well, what are you going to do with them now that they're in there? Most people say, well, I'm going to back them up because you have maybe you have a hard drive or something with your computer. And on that hard drive, you can press a few buttons and everything that's on your hard drive will go onto that'll go onto the hard drive, and now you have them backed up in the hard drive. And I say to that person, well, what happens if the house burns down? Then my house is not going to burn down. Well, okay, then cancel your fire insurance. Every hard drive will fail. Every clock will stop. Every car will stop running, sooner or later. The problem with having these, by the way, we're talking, if we back up to the camera, what we did originally, was it important enough for us to do anything with? Or was it just a lot of junk? This gets back to, if we're really interested and serious about an image, we want to make sure that we don't lose that image, because it's never going to happen again. I mean, he just kissed his bride. That's it, you got it. It's gone if you lost it. I mean, it's not going to come back. So you have to, what do we do now? We have it on the backup drive, and we have it in our computer, so we have it in 2 places. We need to have it in a more secure place. Theoretically, you can unplug your hard drive and put it in the trunk of your car. And you could have 2 hard drives and do that and interchange them. Then you'd be pretty safe. Unless your car blows up and your house blows up at the same day. It's probably not going to happen. The good news is that right now, it's at one time, a hard drive could be $100, 15 minutes. A hard drive could be $100, $200, $300. Right now, if you go to Target, when you're walking out at the checkout counter, like you can buy gum and toothpaste and a few little things, you can buy an 8 GB flash drive. You know how much that is? $5.99. That's all, $5.99. If you want, you could have 7 of them, couldn't you? Now, what can you put on a flash drive? How many pictures? Anybody? I said no questions, but you can give me answers. How many pictures do you think you could put on that 8 GB drive?
Well, about 1,000.
Give me, how much?
1,000 plus?
There's 1,000 plus? Depends on how big the picture is. Yes? 20,000. Anybody else want to? All right. I was going to work without a net, but I have to look at my notes. I don't have, I heard it. No? I don't know where it is. A 8 GB drive of a regular size image will hold between 1 and 5,000 images. Between 1 and 5,000. That's an awful lot of pictures. But even then, there's a danger there. The fact that it holds so many would give you the idea that you can put a lot of stuff on there, but then you have a lot of stuff to lose. So it's wise to have several like that. So now let's back up. Here's what we do. We take the picture, we get it in the computer, we don't erase the card, because the card is a backup. If you follow the system I'm talking about, you'll have 7 cards, and so you won't, on the 7th time, when you get to that 7th card, it doesn't have to be by days, or 5 cards, or 3 cards, at least 3 cards. When you've got to you put the 3rd card into the computer and it comes out, you take the 1st card, put it in the camera, and then format it. Now you format it, you don't erase it. Remember, you're not doing it in the computer, you're doing it in the camera, you're not erasing, you are formatting, and you're formatting a card that you've had around for a while, you've already put the pictures in the computer, and you've already put them into one of these things and mailed it to yourself if you want, or give it to your Uncle Charlie. There's other ways to back things up. You see it all the time on television. You can get carbonite, for example, and you can back things up. You know what happens is certain people, they get old and they die, and then the pictures are on someplace out in the sky, on the cloud, and nobody can get them because they don't have the password. That's something you hadn't thought about yet, right? Say yes, I want something new to happen. Yeah, you haven't thought about that, right? Your passwords. So they're gone, and you can't get them back. What I have against most methodology of backing up is that it's out of your hands, it's in somebody else's hands. Whether it's carbonite or a dozen others, You say, well, it's safe there, and it's only, I don't know, $69 a year. That's more than you pay for these things. This is safer, and you don't have a bunch of other people somewhere, somehow, knowing what you have. I mean, you could take almost any company in the United States, and it can be a multi-million-dollar company that you have your pictures at. And Heinz Pickles decides they want to buy another company, so they go buy that computer company and get rid of all your pictures. It's terrible. No? So where are we? We now know how to back up our stuff safely and to not back it up and have redundancy. So that the worst thing that can happen, now, we're not talking about backing up. Some of you here may have, for example, I know at least one person here has a Macintosh, and her name starts with a J, I think. Am I doing a mind reading act here? No. Does somebody have a Macintosh?
Yeah.
Where? You?
Yeah.
But it doesn't start with a J, your name?
No.
Okay, all right, well, I was close. Macintosh has, how do you back it up? It's called,
iCloud?
Oh, it's iCloud, I mean, it all just flows, my iPhone, my iPad.
it all goes to iCloud, right,
Yeah, it all goes through iCloud.
right. And everything's password protected, and nobody knows the password but you. And that's the danger, plus the cloud can fail. That's the reason I'm suggesting, I'm just talking about your pictures, your photographs. It works backwards, like what, if it's not, if they're not worth anything, if they're just a bunch of, I don't know, the word, I hate to use this word, snapshots, if that's all it is, it's not very, you know, something you could go out next week and take the same picture. I have a collection of hydrants, for example. I take pictures, I don't know why, well, I do know why, I'm doing a poster. It's gonna be 42 hydrants, but it'd be a loss to me because I've been taking years to get them. So if something's important to you, whatever it is, it might be your birthday of one of your grandchildren every single year for 10 years. These things become invaluable. So you can't trust them to something on the cloud or in the sky. Even if you put them on one of these and give them to Matt. Leave them at the library, put them in a safe deposit box. Do anything with them. Organization, I guess that's the next thing we're talking about. There's all kinds of ways of organizing your photos. There's most programs that you have on your computer for organizing are programs that try to do more than one thing. For example, on your Macintosh you have iPhoto, or you have Aperture, which is a high-end. You have on your other machines you have Lightbox. Is it Lightbox? Everybody knows. What is it? Yeah, Lightbox. You didn't know that. Okay. The word Photoshop is like, everybody knows that word. And Photoshop, if you want to buy the robust Photoshop, is $1,300. And it also, let me see how many, there's only maybe 2-3 people in this room who are going to live long enough to be able to learn it. It's that tough. But you can buy Elements for $79, which is 90% Photoshop. Now, Elements is a program that you can use to manipulate your photos. You want to do things to them. And by the way, when you're putting photos into your computer, and most programs that do it will, and one of them is Picasa. Are you familiar with Picasa? A lot of people use Picasa. Picasa is a bargain. It's free. And it works on the Mac or it works on Windows. It does what most people will need done. And there's no reason to go much further than that. Now, what do you do with them? What do you do with these photographs? Well, first we have to organize them. We're going to organize them. Picasso is pretty good, but there are other programs that they're more than just depositories of your images. They are places that you can organize them. And you can organize them in various ways. How do you organize them now? These are individual things that most programs allow you to make the decision. The decision is, do you want them by date? Do you want to put them in by event? I have, I don't know, 12,000 photos, and I don't know where they are. I don't. I started studying Aperture about a year ago so that I could solve that problem, and I'm getting close. Nowadays, by the time you take a year to learn something, it's new. Aperture used to have you said metadata. That's a highfalutin thing, metadata. Well, if you read the book about aperture, every time you see metadata, then you go to a computer, it's not there anymore. They now call it info. I don't know what all that means to this group at this time, but it's the idea that you, in organizing these, there's things that will help you, such as face recognition. Maybe you don't know this, but many times when you're importing your photographs, your software will put them in the right place because you told them where Johnny's pictures go, because the computer recognizes that image. It's face recognition. When you're importing your pictures, many times your camera has a tremendous amount of information that it's putting into what they used to call metadata and now call info. It's put in, where was it? Where did it happen? What time was it? What second was it? All that information is available to organize. And the best organized plan is one that you make yourself. And if you have to start fresh, you start all over, you just start a whole new system, and from that day on do it right, and then go to the old ones and put them into their proper place. Someone's making some notes, that's good. I want to talk a little bit about exhibiting or displaying your photos. This time I have to ask you questions, kind of. What do you do with your pictures after you get them? You put them on Facebook? I hate Facebook.
Well, you can create, the photo books and create.
Actual books?
Yeah.
That's a wonderful way. You do an actual book. One of the places to do that is at Blurb, blub.com. You can do an 8x8 book for about $10, or you can do an Apple book. You can do, but there's something about a book. It's in your hands. You see it. You feel it. You smell it. If you don't take care of it, it'll get worms in it eventually. I mean, it's real, and it's there alone. We have a saying in the Astro Street group. What's on your wall? I mean, if you have something that you take that's so, I mean, it's Bar Harbor and it's a beautiful shot and so forth, it belongs on your wall or in a book or somewhere. It doesn't belong where you see 37,000 other pictures that look just like it on Facebook. It belongs on your wall. It's another, I'll put it in a different way. Does everybody here have a couch? Well, up behind the couch, is there a picture? Did it come from Target? Or the furniture store? Is it like a bowl of flowers? How many people have a photograph that they took up on their couch, behind their couch? You don't need this class. I need the class. Because I got two problems. One is I got a basket of flowers behind the couch, and the second problem is, it's got, this is terrible, this is a sin. It's got a glass on it. I got a thing about glass on photographs. Anybody else have that thing against glass on photographs?
My son does, he was just talking about that a few days ago.
What was his critique?
Well, we were someplace where there was a whole set of photographs, and one of them was quite a bit larger, and it had glass on it. And he said, that's really beautiful. I don't usually like pictures that have glass on them, but that's nice. So he doesn't.
So that was positive.
Yeah.
I'm negative about glass because of the reflection. If you go out in the other room and you look at those photographs, there's 7 on each side. It's a corridor, and there's 7 on each side. And if there was glass on them, number one, they're heavier. The library might not even let us put in nails big enough. But secondly, when you're looking at something, you're seeing the reflection of what's behind it. Now, right now, my wife is playing rummy with her son, and the television is there, and the picture on the couch is over here, and they're playing rummy here, and Timothy is watching TV by looking at the bowl of flowers. Because it's a mirror.
But what about conservation plan?
Okay, tell you what, now it's time to do questions. Because I'm going to stop you. What'll happen, you haven't stopped me once.
It's okay.
Am I still on the right?
Keep going.
He,
Your voice is going, but it's
my voice is going a little, we have a volume control. What happened to my cover? Just give me a minute, I'll go. A few minutes back to, we've established a relationship, the display, how you display it. I live in an apartment building. The door is here, and then there's an out-cut place that is exactly 13 inches. So I have a 13 by 19 print framed exactly like you see on the wall. And every month, I take it down, put up a new one, and take the one down and give it to Carol, who's the concierge. She's getting quite a collection. And in 10 years, when I'm dead, it's going to be worth a lot of money because I'm going to sign them. Questions? Let's do some. What time is it? Oh, yeah, we got it. Let's do questions.
What's the best way to print a digital photo? Because you know, in the good old days, you had black and white, you printed them, they lasted 100 years, but now the color fades.
It gets back to the glass again. One of the reasons for glass is supposedly to protect the picture. And we go way back where you had a competition, in a way, a friendly, maybe not so friendly, competition between painters and photographers. And, you know, there was like, you know, that's not real art, that's photography. You know, you're using a thing, I'm using a paintbrush. And it's only one of a kind. And that's why for some of the photographers today have limited editions. I have one particular print that's never going to be sold because it's an edition of one. And it's priced so nobody would buy it. But you could do that with a painting, but you can't with a photograph, you can make hundreds of them. But a piece of glass originally was partly to protect it because the dyes, the inks, were only good for 75, 80 years. Right now, your regular, just your normal printer, a $99 printer that prints in color, that color will be good in 300 years, which won't make too much difference to anybody here anyways. But by not having the glass on it, you're degrading the picture. Something about that picture is not the same as seeing the actual, and it depends on the paper too. If you have a glossy print, you're already got a glass on it, because you're getting a reflection. That's why most of the prints out there are matte, but you'll see that the next exhibit, they'll all be matte. We won't have any shiny ones. I don't know if I answered the question, but today's inks, when you do something technologically correct, a few years go by, we do not go, we go like this, but the technology goes like that. And today's inks are good for hundreds of years, hundreds of years. But in addition to that, even if it wasn't, you have an image that's good forever, because you have a digital image in the trunk of your car on one of these.
I heard even those don't last that long.
They don't last 1,000 years,
Right.
then get two of them.
I mean, I thought they would be gone, like, degrade somehow in 30, 40, 50 years.
That may be true with a hard drive that has a movable, as a disk, it's a movable part. It's very unlikely and totally it's not accurate to say that about something that's solid state. There's nothing in here moving, nothing going to move.
And one would it be better to put your images on flash as opposed to CDs?
CDs are subject to not being. What you just said about only so many years and so forth, CDs are not very. There's different levels of CDs. You can buy, you can buy cheap ones, good ones, all the way up, DVDs and CDs. They're also, you can't put many images on a CD. I mean, how many images can you put on a CD? Even on a DVD, you cannot put thousands of images like you can on a flash drive. And they also are going to have to move in some kind of a device, which requires, and a lot of the things that I don't mean this, yeah, I do. Sometimes when you hear something about something, and somebody told you something, there's a printout I was going to give everybody and I forgot it. So I'm going to email it to you. It's called Debatable Ideas about this whole game. And that's one of them. One of the things in Debatable Ideas is that I suggested you don't buy photo magazines. Because there aren't anymore. If you want to see good pictures, get National Geographic or Smithsonian. I'll come to the library, talk to Matt, show you some. But photo magazines are not designed for any other purpose. They're catalogs with a few articles in it, and almost every article is, if you only had this tripod, if you only had this gadget, if you only had this or that, they're catalogs. So I strongly suggest you don't. But that gets back to like someone tells you something. One of the most difficult things in human relations is if you tell me something and I really want to know more about it, the only way I can do that is to say to you, well, can you tell me how you know that? It's like I'm challenging you, and it could be written the wrong way. And I'm not really doing that. I really want to know, where did that information come from? Because I want to research it. In fact, that brings me back to probably the most important thing that I could have said tonight, and I haven't said yet, and that is if you leave here tonight with more questions than answers, I've succeeded. You got to think about that a little bit Zenish, maybe, whatever that is. Zenish is Zenish, right? If you leave with more questions, and if you really want to learn something, really know a lot about something, tell me what it is, and I'll tell you how you can learn it. You can learn it by teaching it. So if you want to know about CDs and there's stuff about and all this other stuff, you're going to come in on Wednesday, first or third Wednesday, and you're going to give a 10-minute class on the subject. Suddenly you're a teacher. Why? Because you had to be, in order to teach it, you had to learn about it. So you went to Google, and you went to research, and you did this, and you did that, and you did that, so forth. Questions? Ruth?
Okay, what kind of, if we're traveling and we want to, those little, what do they call them, those little tripods, are they really good as opposed to like the big I don't want to carry a big tripod.
Well, the
Helium pods or whatever they call them, real